Hello everybody and welcome to another How Many Mark 1 Focuses Are Left in the UK. Most of you need no introduction to this. I have my own spreadsheet formula of how many Mark 1s are left, far more accurate than the How Many Left website. Please do not pay attention to that. The only thing it's relatively accurate for is some of the special limited editions, but even that's they're a bit off as well. It depends on how these cards were registered, and that unfortunately is something even I don't have any control over, particularly when it comes to knowing what information to include and what not to include, particularly 2005 focus models, because it got mixed up with Mark 2s. So that is based on a percentage algorithm. Usually I would assume that any focus models in 2005, there would be a sort of 33% share of Mark 1s and the 66% majority are Mark 2s. Mark 1s being only really registered towards the end of May, and even then they were Spartan numbers compared to Mark 2s. So that 33% might be something like 20%. I might have over predicted some of those models, but that is unfortunately something I cannot really predict, especially as some of the data for engines is also mixed up because the 1.6 Sigma was also used in the Mark II, so I can't really use that as a way of gauging how many are left. Excuse the voice, I have been talking for quite a while the last few days, but I would just go over some brief points. Mark 1 numbers have been declining for several years now, very rapidly. In fact, from year to year, it's been quite usual to see a drop of around a quarter of what was left previously for the following year. And that could potentially mean a drop of several thousand. In fact, in the last 2 years, I will tell you, Mark 1 numbers have gone down by 40,000. 2 years ago, Q4 2021, remember the data is 6 months old, Q4 2021, the total number of Mark 1s in the UK was 93,942, so just under 94,000 Mark 1s left. Last year, Q4 2022, that dropped by 23,000 to 70,000, just over 70,000. That's quite a drop. Now you imagine this year, it's going to be the same. It is. Unfortunately, the numbers have already dropped by, again, around 17,000. Now, you might think, oh, that's less. No. Because there's less models left, the percentage will naturally come to a slow incline. That's what will happen. But that's not what's happened here. Unfortunately, the total number of Mark 1s in the UK has dropped significantly again to 53,742. Not good, but not unpredictable. And that is a percentage drop of 23.9%. So that is fractionally under the percentage drop of the previous 12 months. So it's kind of in line. It does suggest there is fractionally a slowing down, but that slowing down is only because there's less left. I don't believe that Mark 1s are getting scrapped any slower than what they are. We're still doing this. There's very, very minimal sign that we're doing this, and it's starting to slow down a little bit. Unfortunately, I've gone through all the numbers. The main ones that really dropped was the Edge and Flight models because they are a special limited edition, but there was so many of them made, over 2,000 each, and we've lost about 500, 600 of them each, which is ridiculous. ST170s, a surprising high number considering there was only about 1,800 left with us. Another 150 have disappeared off the roads since the last time I sat in this seat. I think it was January time, the last time the data came out. So again, another 150 have gone since the last quarter. Since the last quarter, we've lost about 5,000 focuses. Now, that doesn't sound as much, But when you've got less focuses, that's quite a lot. And the percentage is what tells you if we're doing this or we're still doing this. And we're still doing this. That's unfortunately what I see. All the models comparatively have gone down. CLs, there's just over 2,000 CLs left. The majority are 1.4 petrols, 18, just under 1,900 of them are petrols. There are about 200 CL 1.8 TDDI diesels. LX again, just under 13,000. Sorry, that was a bit concerning. 13,000. Most of them are petrol manuals. The automatics are doing very well. 1.8 TDDI, there's only 360. The TDCI LX 593. Biofuel models, there's only 39 of them left across LX, Zetec and Gear. Most of them are Zetec biofuels, but they're just dying out as usual. Zetec's, the run-of-the-mill, over 292 were totally registered in the UK, around about that number, very accurately I can tell you. We've only got about 18,000 left. That is amazing. That, unfortunately, we've dropped by another 2,000 to 3,000 Zetecs in the last quarter. That's really alarming. So now we no longer have any Focus models that have over 20,000 models, examples per model. So now the Zetec has joined the sub 20,000 category, like everyone else. 18,185, 13,000 are petrol manuals, just under 4,000 are automatics, quite popular, like my car. And TDDIs, again, 268, TDCIs, 534. Any diesels are so rare now. Nobody wants a diesels. ULEZ zones are making sure that diesels are really not wanted in certain parts of the country. And they are plummeting. Diesel models have gone down way more than petrols. So I can see diesel models being an extremely rare version. The only model of any petrol, diesel variant, I should say, is the Gear. Gear 1.8 TDCI 1,116. That's it. That will probably go around the 1,000 mark the next quarter. I reckon another 100 or so will come off. That may, unfortunately, that might be the only. That is the only diesel variant with over 1,000 examples, but not for too much longer. For those people who bought a 1.8 TDDI Gear, yeah. So Adam, your car is in this total. 288. That's not a lot. In terms of the gears, I will outline this. There were for 161 first registered in total. We are left with 12,966. So there's only a couple of hundred more gears than LXs in total. That's not surprising, actually. Again, about 9,000 of petrol manuals, 2,500 automatics, but they will probably be quite popular in the future. ST170s, 1,649. Absurd. Special limited editions. Okie dokie. Millennium. We've lost a couple. 40. Yeah. I will say one thing. I'm still not including SORN data in this, by the way, because I'm looking at the SORN data on every model I do. And what I'm seeing is models going to the scrapyard, and I believe a lot of them are not returning to the roads. It's a very small number of cars that are SORNed that are returned to the road. My Focus, it was a SORN car this winter. It's back on the roads, taxed. It might be SORNed for another few months. I don't know. It's a very small number, and it's only enthusiasts that are doing that. And it's such a small number. There's no point in me starting a data on Sawned, but it will happen because the number of Sawned focuses, I think, has remained practically steady, which basically means that cars are disappearing. There are cars that are now on Sawn that will be scrapped, and there are cars that are on the road that will be off the road, ready to disappear. For instance, if you had 14 Millenniums on the road, and this is a true example, and you had, I think there's about 93 on Sawn. In the next quarter, if that becomes 35, but the number on Sawn doesn't increase, that means 5 Millenniums have gone. Because effectively, if you've got 35, that 5 that was on the road should add to the total on Sawn. So it should be not 93, but 98, but it was still 93. So they've gone. That's what I look at. And I'm seeing so many examples of where that's the case. We're just losing them. Z-Tech Collections, 100 on the road. That's it. But there are some that are on Sawn deliberately because it's the winter. You know, it's over the winter. Black, 95 of them. That's ridiculous. I've actually seen 2 in Birmingham recently, black editions. Silver, 188. Chick, 129. Ellie, 141. Ebony does a bit better. The Ebony, 217. They fare a bit better, but there was more Ebonies manufactured for some reason. MP3, 96. We still lost a few more of them. This is crazy. Flight, 2,045, just over 2,000. And the Edge, 2,294. We've lost a lot of them. They will go down to way below 2,000 the next quarter. Ink, 227. The Sport, TDCI. Now, this has, I do apologise, this has not been accurate the last few times, and I think I avoided saying the number. There was 3,178 of them first registered, approximately. There's now 130 of them. Goodness me, these cars need to be preserved. We're losing about 10 every quarter. RS, I can't include RSs in this because pretty much what we've got on the road, this is data from the winter Q4. So we've only got 366 apparently on the roads. That will go up in the next quarter because they're all going to be taxed and off Sawn, ready for the show season. Well, maybe Q2, maybe. But yeah, it's quite stark, isn't it? I am going to leave this episode here, but all I will say is, out of the total number of Mark 1s first registered in the UK, which is around 780,000 of them, not quite a million. I thought it was a million personally, but not quite. That's still a ridiculously high number in, well, effectively 6.5 years of registrations. We now have 53,742. Which is just under, actually, 7% of all Mark 1s registered in the UK. That's alarming, and it is just totting down every quarter. Do I expect to see a curve? I said this a couple of years ago. I said 2 years ago, I don't expect Mark 1s to slow down because in the last 2 years, we've lost 40,000, and that 40,000 are the tired ones that have gone through Bangonomics and have just landed with the wrong people in the wrong time, and they've gone. And plenty of them have given space to the ones that survive. I do fully expect that in Q4 2024, so in 12 months down the line, I do expect the numbers to have shown a little bit of a sign of slowing down a bit more, but only because there's less left, not necessarily because more people are preserving them. This is a very niche category, and I do expect, to be honest, 53,000 cars is still amazing for a car its age. but it's not going to be sustainable. What do I think it's now? Because, you know, it's 6 months in the future. I suspect that at this moment in time, there is around, I'd say, 45,000 on the roads. I'd say 45. I'd say we've lost another 8,000 vehicles, but only time will tell whether my prediction is correct. And I think if you go back to some of my earlier how many lefts, I think my prediction at this point of around 50,000 was a little bit over the top. So 53 is not too far off. So I'm not far off. But I do think that at the moment we've got about 45,000, but it will still keep going down. When do I think it's going to plateau or slow down or come to a bit of a stop? There is quite a good possibility that there could be around 15 to 20,000 Mark 1s remaining, but that's only an if and a but, and that is long term. That is really long term, because we're going to see the numbers kind of slow down a little bit more as we have less remaining, and people who break Mark 1s are going to hang on to them for longer. So I will kind of include that in the SORN data a little bit, but suffice to say, if a Mark 1 goes on SORN, 9 times out of 10 at the present, probably 99 times out of 100, to be honest, it's going to be scrapped. There's only that 1 in 100 that is a preserved example, like mine, maybe like yours, if you've got a Mark 1 that you're looking after and sorting. That's the rarity factor. Anyway, I will leave this here. I hope you've found this quite intuitive. It's quite depressing, but equally all the same, I don't really care sometimes, because it just makes the best ones more valuable every day. And I just hope that the work that the club does just makes sure that there is a good enough quartet of examples. I would like that a few examples of each model, especially limited editions in the club. We already have a Millennium, a Z-Tech collection in the group. There's an MP3 that's joined up. We've got Flight, definitely. Hey, Tony. We've got some RSs. We do not have a Sport TDCI. We may have an Edge, but we haven't seen one at a local meet. Ebony, Ellie, Chick, don't know. Dave, your silver, very rare. Black, we haven't got a black. I don't think we've got a black. So, anyway, I'll leave this here. You take care, guys. I'll see you in another episode. Probably not at this desk.